Virginia Halas McCaskey, the only daughter of Pro Football Hall of Famer George Halas and the Bears' principal owner since 1983, passed away February 6th at the age of 102. Condolences poured in from around the NFL on Thursday, including from Commissioner Roger Goodell. When George Halas passed away in 1983, McCaskey inherited the team, stepping into a role that would see her guide the franchise for 4 decades. On Thursday, she passed away at the age of 102, marking the end of an era that linked her to the league's formative years. As a child, she joined her father on the Red Grange barnstorming tour in 1925, a pivotal moment that helped establish the NFL. McCaskey became a rare woman in NFL ownership, consistently prioritizing the values of family and faith throughout her tenure. The cause of death indications are that it was due to natural causes. While we are sad, we are comforted knowing Virginia Halas McCaskey lived a long, full, faith-filled life and is now with the love of her life on earth, the family said. She guided the Bears for 4 decades and based every business decision on what was best for Bears players, coaches, staff, and fans. Mrs. McCaskey was born January 5th, 1923, less than 3 years after her father founded the Bears as the Decatur Staleys and helped create what would become the NFL. Her father, George Halas, joined the Decatur Staleys football team in 1920 and bought the team from his employer, the A. Staley Manufacturing Company, for $100 in 1921. He moved the team from Decatur, Illinois, to Chicago in 1921 and renamed it the Chicago Bears in 1922. Halas' eldest child, Virginia Marion Halas, was born on January 5, 1923. Virginia was alive for all but 3 of the Bears' 105 seasons. She accompanied her father on the 1925 barnstorming tour after the team signed superstar halfback Red Grange. She attended the first unofficial NFL championship game in 1932. That game was also the NFL's first indoor game. The game moved to Chicago Stadium due to cold weather. Virginia McCaskey was alive for all but the first Bears-Packers game. In the last game of her life, on her 102nd birthday, the Bears defeated the Packers for the first time in 6 years. No single individual witnessed as much pro football history as Mrs. McCaskey. As a toddler, she accompanied her dad and the Bears during the Red Grange barnstorming tour in 1925-26. Grange, a Hall of Famer who was football's most popular superstar in his day, carried her in front of him through train stations so fans wouldn't recognize him and mob him for autographs. In 1932, Mrs. McCaskey attended the NFL's first indoor game, watching the Bears capture the league championship by blanking the Portsmouth Spartans 9-0 at Chicago Stadium. In the 1940s, she witnessed the Monsters of the Midway win 4 league championships while modernizing pro football with the introduction of the T formation. Mrs. McCaskey assumed control of the Bears in her 60s upon her father's passing in 1983. The team followed by capturing 5 straight NFC Central Division championships from 1984 to 88 and capping a magical 1985 season with a 46-10 rout of the Patriots in Super Bowl 20. One of her proudest moments came when she was presented the George S. Halas Trophy after the Bears won the NFC Championship with a 39-14 victory over the Saints January 27, 2007, at Snowy Soldier Field. Asked if she had a message for Bears fans after that game, Mrs. McCaskey said, "I definitely do. I think our Bears fans are wonderful. I'm so glad everybody's learning the Bears Fight song. I thought that was one of my favorite parts of the Sunday celebration. The other message I would borrow from my husband, Ed. He always used the closing line, 'In your prayers, remember the Bears.'" One member of the famed '85 Bears, Hall of Fame running back Walter Payton, was extra special to Mrs. McCaskey. "I was trying to think of words that mean Walter Payton to me," Mrs. McCaskey once said. "And the first one that comes to mind is excellence. The second one is class. And the third one is fun because that was a big part of everyone's contact with Walter in one way or another." Mrs. McCaskey was a fixture at Bears games, both at home and on the road. Every year she hosted a Bears Wives Luncheon and appeared at the Bears Care Gala and the Ed Block Courage Award Luncheon. On occasion, she spoke to Bears rookies and visited training camp. At Halas Hall, She had an office and a reserved parking spot next to her father's statue, just outside the front door. Virginia McCaskey was a busy mother of 11 living in the north suburbs when her brother George "Muggs" Halas Jr. died of a heart attack in 1979. His death left his sister as the only remaining heir to the team. At the time, George Halas Sr. was still alive, but he was in his 80s. In one of Halas' last major moves, he hired Mike Ditka as head coach in 1982. McCaskey, and pretty much everyone in Chicago, expected her brother to run the team once Halas was gone. But Muggs' unexpected death, he was 54 when he died, changed that plan. Upon Halas' death in 1983, ownership of the team transferred to McCaskey. Her eldest son, Michael McCaskey, became team president following his grandfather's death. "I've been so blessed that this has been my life," Mrs. McCaskey once said. "I can't think of any other way I would want to be living my life." When her son, Bears chairman George H. McCaskey, celebrated her 100th birthday in 2023, he described her greatest qualities as her grace, quiet dignity, humility, and gratitude, and revealed that she continues to inspire him every day in every way with a remarkable combination of grit and grace. "She's the guiding force behind everything we do here, and everybody knows that, including the guys in the locker room," he said at the time. Halas revealed in his autobiography that he and his wife, Min, were expecting a boy when Min was pregnant with Virginia. "The initial shock over, I was delighted with my daughter," Halas wrote. "I began immediately plying her with orange juice, the fat at the time for young babies, and stories of the Bears." Virginia McCaskey was in charge when the Bears won their only Super Bowl championship following the 1985 season. "That was a very unusual team and a very unusual season because so much of the normal stress of game day seemed to be disappearing," she once said, according to ChicagoBears.com. "We could go to the game and not be completely knotted up inside." She also formed a close bond with star running back Walter Payton. Even after Payton died in 1999, Virginia McCaskey remained close with Payton's wife, Connie, and their children and grandchildren. Virginia McCaskey had a strong regard for Bears history, and she continued to attend games in her later years. When the Bears returned to the Super Bowl following the 2006 season, Virginia McCaskey accepted the George Halas Trophy wearing the same fur coat her mother wore when the Bears won the 1963 NFL championship. During grade school, when a group of boys were bragging to Virginia about meeting Chicago Cubs star Gabby Hartnett, she countered by mentioning that she personally knew Grange. When the boys refused to believe her, she returned to school with an autographed photo of Grange that read, "Dear Virginia, sure, I do know you and I think you're swell," read Grange. Mrs. McCaskey attended Drexel University in Philadelphia, where she studied business management. It was there that she met her future husband, who was a student at the University of Pennsylvania and also sang in a band at local dance halls. Virginia married Ed McCaskey February 2, 1943, on her father's 48th birthday. Ed soon left for Europe to fight in World War II, serving in the army. "He was charming," Mrs. McCaskey once said. "He cared about people. I think that was his best quality." The McCaskeys were married for 60 years until Ed passed away April 8, 2003, at the age of 83. Devout Catholics, they raised 11 children. 3 of Ed and Virginia's 8 sons currently work full-time for the Bears. George is joined by Vice Presidents Patrick and Brian. The McCaskey's oldest child, Michael, served as Bears president from 1982 to 99 and chairman from 1999 until his retirement in 2011. Michael passed away May 16, 2020, at the age of 76. The McCaskey's second oldest child, Tim, served as a Bears vice president from 1993 until his death January 30, 2011. In addition to George, Barbara, Patrick, Gretchen, and Brian Barbara, Mrs. McCaskey is survived by sons Edward Jr., Kathy, Richard and Joseph, and daughters Ellie, Barney, Tunquest, Marian, and Mike. Katrin, along with 21 grandchildren, 40 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great-grandchildren. Fittingly, Mrs. McCaskey's final Bears game, on her 102nd birthday January 5th no less, was an exciting victory over the rival Packers in Green Bay, decided with a game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos as time expired. "I'm just very grateful for my life and all the opportunities I've had," she once said. "All the privileges I've had, all the games I've watched, all the miracles I've watched. I can't think of a better life, and I hope we all value what we have and take good care of it." Ed and Virginia McCaskey had 11 children, 21 grandchildren, 40 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great-grandchildren. Their son Timothy died in 2011, and their son Michael died in 2020. Virginia's husband, Ed McCaskey, died in 2003. Over a 105-year history, the Bears have remained a family business. Her son George McCaskey is the current chairman of the board. He took over in 2011 when his brother Michael McCaskey retired. At the time of Virginia McCaskey's death, 5 of the 7 board members were McCaskey family members, including Virginia. The other board members are current team president Kevin Warren and businessman Pat Ryan, who bought a minority share in the team from the children of George Halas Jr. in 1990.